Hey guys, welcome back to Lap 1 News, and today, just as we had on Tuesday, we have some important breaking news. Carlos Sainz is moving to Ferrari in replace of Sebastian Vettel's seat, and to replace Carlos Sainz at McLaren, Daniel Ricciardo is joining the team from 2021. That is mega news for everybody involved. So, on Tuesday, it was announced that Vettel was going to be leaving Ferrari, and a lot of people speculated that Ricciardo or Sainz, Alonso, Giovinazzi would go in to replace him. And today, as I've said, it's been officially announced that that is going to be Carlos Sainz Jr. in the Ferrari, partnering Charles Leclerc from 2021 onwards. Didn't say how long the deal was for that, but nevertheless, it's big news. Now, obviously, Carlos Sainz leaving, that leaves a seat at McLaren, which Ricciardo swiftly took. I mean, it was actually announced before, so he kind of already knew Sainz was going to Ferrari before, because his seat was already taken by Ricciardo. Yeah. That in itself is pretty big. He left Red Bull at the end of 2018, arguably to get away from being number 2 driver, to go for a customer team, or go from a customer team to a works team. And Renault really sold him a dream. And last year, and potentially this year as well, they've not lived up to his expectations, and therefore he doesn't have the trust in them to get them fighting from 2022 when the new regulations come in. So you can understand why he's making this switch, because McLaren for sure looked a lot more impressive last season, certainly, than Renault did, and going into this season they're on the front foot. And if they can continue that momentum, and they do have the right plans in place, they can actually back up what they're saying, that they can be fighting with the top 3 teams in a couple of years' time, then it will be a good move for Ricciardo. I think potentially in leaving Red Bull, Ricciardo might have kind of sealed his own fate, sort of thing, because at Red Bull he was in a top 3 team, and okay, he was going to be Max's number 2. The team were going to prioritise Max. They see Max as their future, and so he left. And again, I can understand why he left, but at the end of the day, he is now moved from a top team to a mid-table team who he took the risk on, and clearly he's thought that risk wasn't reaping the rewards that he thought. So he's taking another risk, arguably a more calculated risk this time than Renault was, but at the same time it's still a risk. You can't guarantee that McLaren won't do what Renault did last season. You can't guarantee that they won't. So really, it will be interesting for sure to see how that ends up playing out, and I'm looking forward to it. That obviously, with Ricciardo leaving, leaves a seat open for 2021 at Renault. Now, I mean, my predictions from Tuesday's video were completely off. I said Giovinazzi would go to Ferrari and nobody from like Sainz and Ricciardo would both stay put for next year. Obviously, I was very wrong on that one, so take this with a pinch of salt. In terms of options for Renault, there's two names kicking about, definitely, being Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel. I don't see Alonso. He left McLaren because it wasn't competitive, because it was a downhill slope and it wasn't delivering what he wanted it to do. And it's more than likely going to be exactly the same with Renault. There'd be no sense whatsoever for him personally to return to the team. And it wouldn't make an awful lot of sense for Renault because, okay, they have a lot of history. He won his 2 successful championships there. But Renault aren't what they were in 2005 and 2006. I don't think they will be. And they're trying to rebuild. Getting somebody like Fernando Alonso, who is pretty notorious for turning the teams he goes to down in how they're performing. I just think it would be a terrible mistake for all involved if it was Fernando Alonso that went to partner Esteban Ocon next year at Renault. Vettel is another option that's being milled about. That is also, I mean, that's a more 50-50 move. I don't see that Vettel would really want to move to Renault other than just to stay in Formula One. They're going to prioritise Ocon. Whoever gets that seat now, Renault are going to prioritise Ocon just as Ferrari prioritised Leclerc. And, I mean, Vettel left for a reason, and I don't see him wanting to go next year to Renault for the same reasons that he's left Ferrari, sort of thing. And certainly in that statement that he made, that was announced on Tuesday, it didn't sound like he was going to stay in Formula One. It sounded like he wanted to retire from racing. So, for sure, I don't think he will be there to replace Ricciardo next year either. So, who do I think is going to replace Ricciardo next season? I'm not too sure. I think potentially, I doubt it, but we could see a return of Nico Hülkenberg. He's proven himself in that car. And okay, he missed out a season because they wanted to bring in Ocon. And whether he will want to return to Renault after that, I'm not sure. But I do think he just wants to get back racing in the sport. And Renault would be his best choice for that. Obviously, they have a lot of connection in the team, a lot of history in the team. He knows the team. So it wouldn't be the worst choice for either team because he is consistent. But at the same time, maybe they want to bring in somebody like Christian Lundgaard from F2. Or, I know they've let him go now, but they could bring back Jack Aitken, who, okay, is Williams, but realistically he's not that close to a Williams drive at the minute. So if they could bring him in, I mean, Jack Aitken is a good driver. He's not quick. He's not as quick as George, Lando and Albon were when they were all in F2 together. But he's certainly not a bad driver. He does have race wins. He can win races. He does bring that car up from where it can be, where it should be sometimes. I think it depends how his third year in F2 is, really. You know, if he can pick up the performances, and if Christian Lundgaard doesn't perform, then I can see it happening. But saying that, Christian Lundgaard is with ART, who are notoriously good in F2. Really, it does depend how the F2 season plays out, I think, for who is going to get that seat. I think it's more likely they're going to give it to Christian Lundgaard. And yeah, that would be also a good option. I think he would be happy for certainly for the first year or two to play number 2 to Esteban Ocon, and it would really just allow the team to build on where they are, get them up from where they are at the minute, so they can improve and be fighting in the top 3 like every midfield team wants to do at the minute. So yeah, for sure, that's who I think is going to replace Ricciardo, and it's also been my thoughts and just giving you the news regarding SAINZ and Ricciardo's move. So, as always, thanks for watching, guys. This has been John Whittaker from Lap 1 News, and I'm out. See you next time.